Today we're diving into a movie that has everything your teenage brain ever wanted. Heavy metal. What if I took an R-rated comic book, added 10 pounds of cocaine, a truckload of booze? We've got space strippers, zombie pilots, and a sword-wielding power babe. Oh, and the soundtrack? It's basically a mixtape for the coolest D&D campaign that never existed. So spark up, grab a drink, because heavy metal is about to melt your face off. Welcome to Video Rental Chaos. Today, we're talking about heavy metal, the movie that's like opening a time capsule from the 1980s and getting hit in the face with boobs, blood, and Black Sabbath. This isn't just a movie, okay? It's what happens when your weird uncle's record collection, a stack of Playboys, and an entire bottle of Jack Daniels collide in a cosmic explosion of insanity. It's got everything. Horny aliens, undead soldiers, and a giant glowing green orb that's apparently Satan's fidget spinner. And don't forget the badass warrior chick who shows up to remind us all that you can kill an entire barbarian army while barely wearing pants. Strap on in, because this is the most not safe for work cartoon your inner 13-year-old will ever see. And I'm here to guide you through this wild ride. So, let's get chaotic, because heavy metal doesn't just rock, it absolutely shreds. We start the movie with an astronaut exiting a space shuttle in orbit, as the ship releases a Corvette from its cargo hold. Now, wearing a spacesuit, he parachutes down with the car, landing on an alien desert planet. He drives across the barren terrain until reaching a mysterious building. The astronaut, Grimaldi, enters his home, carrying a glowing green orb, the Lochnar, in a containment case. He shows it off to his young daughter, but when he opens the case, the Lochnar levitates and vaporizes him instantly. The terrified girl watches as the Lochnar addresses her, claiming to be the source of all evil. It begins to show her visions of its influence throughout time and space. Our first story takes us to a dystopian future New York City where cab driver Harry Canyon narrates his life in a rough, crime-ridden city. Harry picks up a young woman fleeing from gangsters. She tells him her father was killed after discovering a valuable artifact, the Lochnar, and that the gangsters are after her. Harry takes her back to his apartment to hide out. After spending the night with the lady, Harry is met by the police in the morning. Later, when entering his cab, he is met by the enemy, who are looking for the woman and the Lochnar. Well, Harry meets the woman later, and she decides to sell the Lochnar, arranging a meeting with a buyer. However, after completing the deal with the bad guy, she betrays Harry, attempting to keep the money for herself. Harry, unfazed, vaporizes her with the ray and keeps the cash. Our second story takes us to a nerdy boy named Dan, as he discovers the Lochnar while conducting experiments in his attic. When he touches it, he is transported to another world and transformed into Dan, a muscular bald hero. He rescues a woman named Catherine from being sacrificed by the cultists, then becomes caught in a conflict between two factions, Ard, a seductive queen, and a grotesque priest, where he has this one dude who wants him to enter the castle in order to obtain the Lochnar from the opposing queen. Well, Den and the boys make their way to the castle, and eventually Den meets the queen herself. Her men, once they find out the Lochnar is missing, instantly try to kill Den. Den is able to escape. With this, Den eventually defeats both Ard and the priest. Refusing to use the Lochnar for himself, he discards it. In the meantime, though, he reflects on how his ordinary life could never have prepared him for such an adventure. Our third story takes us to a space station courtroom, as Captain Stern is on trial for various crimes. Despite overwhelming evidence against him, Stern assures his lawyer that a bribed witness, Hanover Fist, will testify in his favor. When Hanover takes the stand, he begins defending Stern, but is corrupted by the Lochnar, which he had found earlier, as it transforms him into a massive, vengeful monster. Well, Hanover's rampage through the station chasing Stern. In a comedic twist though, Stern tricks Hanover into dropping the Lochnar, allowing him to escape unscathed. Our next story is about a World War II B-17 bomber that is flying through enemy territory. Its crew is under attack. After taking heavy fire, several crew members die. The Lochnar appears, reanimating the dead into zombies. The surviving pilot fights off the undead as they tear through the plane. In a desperate move, he escapes by parachuting out of the bomber. However, he lands on an island where even more zombies that have been animated by the Lochnar are waiting for him. We go to the Pentagon, where a secretary named Gloria attends a meeting about an alien threat. A massive spaceship crashes through the ceiling, abducting her and an official. Inside the ship, Gloria encounters two stoner alien pilots and a robot named Zeke. She unexpectedly falls in love with Zeke, and the two share a bizarre romance. Meanwhile, the aliens are distracted, partying and snorting massive amounts of a strange substance. The story ends with the ship floating aimlessly through space and crashing before they land. Our last story of the movie. A barbarian horde discovers the Lochnar and is transformed into a violent, destructive army. They attack a peaceful city, killing its inhabitants. The city's elders summon Parna, the last member of a sacred warrior race, to avenge them. Parna, riding a bird-like creature, tracks the horde to their stronghold. She engages in several intense battles, fighting her way through the barbarian army. In the final confrontation, Parna defeats their leader, but is mortally wounded. She sacrifices herself to destroy the Lochnar, obliterating its power. The story returns to the young girl from the opening. With the destruction of the Lochnar, her home is destroyed. She steps outside to find Parna's bird waiting for her. Climbing onto its back, she rides off, implying she is the next Parna. So, heavy metal, guys. This is probably the third time I've seen this movie, and honestly, it just keeps getting better. The first time I watched it, I definitely was a teenager. And let's be real, I kind of forgot how much nudity was in this movie. The second time a couple of years ago, I didn't really give it the attention that it deserved. But this time, I made sure to sit down properly, spark up a joint, and grab a cup of coffee to fully enjoy it. Let me just say, heavy metal rocks. It's shocking that this movie isn't celebrated more. Because, seriously, what's not to love? You've got killer heavy metal music, gorgeous art that feels like a comic book come to life, and yes, hot babes showing off their big assets. But beyond all that, the creativity and the imagination in this film are next level. The first story, set in New York City, totally nails the gritty, dirty vibe of the city and how messed up people can be. It's immersive, just like the rest of the film. And the soundtrack. Oh man, that title track, Heavy Metal by Sammy Hagar, if it's not on your playlist, you're doing it wrong, okay? Actually, the entire soundtrack deserves more love. It's a masterpiece. So again, I'm generally amazed that I don't hear people talk about this movie more. Let me take this chance, okay, to tell you, we need to celebrate heavy metal. This is one of the greatest animated films of all time. No debate, none whatsoever. If you don't own a copy, get online right now and grab it. DVD, Blu-ray, VHS, hell, Laserdisc, whatever. Just make sure it's in your collection. From now on, it's my personal mission to hype this movie up every chance I get. If you ever want to talk about heavy metal, I'm your guy.